everybody. How are you? Thank you. We're here. We're here to make a show for you. My name is Chris, and I'm going to MC this thing. We have Dave Piper producing, and I'm alongside, 3,000 miles away, Jim McCormick. Hi, Jim.
Yo! Go Birds!
Go Birds. We are probably going to preview these wild card weekend games and talk about how we think the games might go. I'm going to imagine some of the news of the day, news of the week might slip into my questions to Jim here or there. Not that any of the 10 teams that we're talking about today have fired anybody yet, but there have been some career changes in the NFL that we know about, and maybe I'll ask Jim a little bit about those as well. We're sponsored by DraftKings. If you're looking for a place where you can put a couple dollars down, please not too much more than a couple dollars, a little bit. But DraftKings is a great place to do it. They've got great specials all the time. I'll talk more about them in a little bit. I really do appreciate DraftKings sponsoring us. And I want to reward one of our viewers/listeners from last week with a mention because Anthony Prestano, longtime follower, did in fact pick a correct point spread last week. Picked the Raiders, I believe, the Raiders of Las Vegas and Los Angeles and Oakland and my heart, not really. They did cover. They did cover easily against Denver. I had that wrong last week. Good job, Anthony. Last week against the spread, we were okay. I was 7-7. Jim was 9-7. But Jim, my best bets. What the heck, dude?
Yeah. I should start tailing them. I should wait for you to do it. My best bets have been more of just the. Actually, you know what? It's a pretty good pattern. If you just don't do what I say. You're probably up like, I don't know. Let's talk in units. You're up a lot of units, you know.
I'm 9-1-2 on best bets in the past 12 weeks. I believe we've calculated. That's random. Even a drunk squirrel does something that drunk squirrels don't do usually every so often. All right. So speaking of drunk squirrels, Joe Flacco. He's taking his Cleveland Browns down to Houston. This is that one game where the home team has a worse record than I guess there's two games where the home team has a worse actual divisional standing record than the road team. The Texans are division champ. The Browns are the first wild card. So my question for you: this isn't going to really be a thing, right, Joe Flacco? This isn't going to be a thing. He's gonna poo at some point, right?
It has to at some point. Yeah, he's still Joe Flacco, right? Why are we rewriting his career? Like the only really cool part was when he passed Johnny Manziel in career Browns passing yards, and right. And Manziel quote tweeted it. Some records are meant to be broken. Congratulations to Manziel for a quality joke. But it is strange. I mean, he's throwing 300 yards every week. He escaped the pocket last week and ran and threw a really nice pass on the run. Not sure what's going on there. It has to end at
2
some
weeks
point.
ago.
Two weeks ago. I'm sorry. His last game. Right. Week 17. So yeah. I don't know. I don't know what's going on here. I don't get it.
We saw this matchup very recently, and that was the Amari Cooper game. Mm-hmm. Cooper went absolutely crazy and set a single game Browns record, beat a Josh Gordon record. I don't think Josh Gordon tweeted about his record wherever Josh Gordon is.
He did, and sometimes you're not allowed to have phones in those places. You know what I mean? So
yeah, feel bad about that.
No.
So I guess the tendency would be to say, well, sure, the Browns will just go ahead and do it again. Now, the Texans, first of all, made that game look closer than it actually was with a couple of late scores that meant nothing. They were getting slaughtered that entire game. And two, they didn't have C.J. Stroud, which matters. Obviously, that matters. It doesn't necessarily mean you automatically are going to cause Cleveland to score fewer points, but I suspect it would. I suspect without local area shopping mall Davis Mills under center, you'll probably have the ball a little more if you're Houston and maybe prevent Cleveland. It just seems weird. It seems like if you were going to characterize the Texans defense, what do they do well? I think they're okay, but are they worse against the pass? They shouldn't be, but it seemed like against Cleveland they were.
Yeah, they spread things out. I mean, they have young corners. I mean, the kid Stingley has an interception in 5 of the past 7. That's impressive. He's a ball hawk. But I don't know enough. I don't watch enough tape. But from what I understand, people who are watching him, he's a little bit like a young Trayvon Diggs. Like he's a big splash play player, and then also he's going to invite the targets. So he's like, the numbers look good, but then quarterbacks continue to throw to him. So it's one of those things where the counting stats surface because the ball's always near him. Yeah, they're bad at safety. They're bad at linebacker, but they do have edge. They do have some nice edge players. I just think D'Amico has a nice game plan, like generally, but that game, Flacco just had his daddy glasses on. I don't know what was going on there. I can't, but you know what? Also, Stefanski has generally been he's generally a good coach. For what that's worth, he's made like bad things look good before. He's almost like a Doc Rivers in the sense that he's better with bad situations. Like once the good guys are there, or I don't even know, has he had a good guy? Deshaun Watson's probably not good. No offense.
Nick Chubb, maybe.
Yeah. No. He what I'm saying is he's good at elevating. He's good at scheming. He's almost like the McDermott of offense in a way. He can patchwork things. My just thing is like when it's close like this, and the line is obviously close. I just feel like I break it down into like, is there a significantly best unit or best identity? And I continue to come back to this Browns defense, just like, especially with Grant Delpit back. I know it's not a big name, but he's a really good safety, and having him, he would be the best safety or the second best secondary player on the Texans immediately, and he's like the fourth best secondary member on the Browns. So I just think by tiers of like prepared, and also Jim Schwartz doesn't care if you know what he's doing. He's like, cool, we're gonna do it. So
yeah, I actually feel significantly more confident in the over than I do in making a pick. We're gonna, as we go through here, we're gonna throw in a few prop ideas since we only have 6 games to talk about. It's 6, right? Yeah. I keep miscounting, so it's 12 teams, not 10 teams. None of them have fired their coach yet, but I feel like there are points to be had here because I think Stefanski is smart and does know that he can take advantage of Houston's secondary. And I'll tell you, the reason I lean Texans to win this game, or at least to keep it under the 2.5, that they're a home dog, which seems, that's wow. That's a lot of confidence in Joe Flacco. I don't share it. I just think at some point, everybody, the louder it gets, Jim, the louder it gets. Like, can you believe it? Joe Flacco, this is so great. Can you imagine the number of soft focus feature stories that whoever's covering this stupid game on Saturday is going to have planned of Joe Flacco cooking waffles and taking his kids to shotgun practice? I don't know, whatever he does.
practice.
Do you think like that? I just think that's the thing that crumbles. It's like when they showed, what's his name? Oh man, I'm gonna. Who is the Vikings
Josh Dobbs
back at the very?
I was about to say
after Josh Dobbs. Yeah, well, it's like sort of Josh Dobbs.
Oh, okay.
And then after Josh Dobbs was what's his name? Oh, it just flew out of my head. Hedwig Favre.
Yeah, Gary.
Who is it?
Nick Mullins,
right?
400 yards and 400 receptions. Yeah.
Right. They showed Nick Mullins' family again and again and again in the stands, like, this is so great for Nick Mullins. Then he throws like 8 interceptions, and it's like, oh, you could see the little boy just cringing, like the pain. It's not my dad. He's not my real dad. I feel like that's coming for the Flacco kids. I love the Flacco kids. Listen, me and the Flacco kids are great. They're big fans of the show, no question. But I just feel like some disappointments headed their way. They're
like the Rivers kids, except shotguns instead of I don't know what is swords. I don't know what the Rivers have, but
and there's half as many.
Yeah, there's half as many. He's not as productive. Clearly, look at their numbers.
Right.
Yeah, but it is going to come back to earth at some point. I just wonder if this is the one. I wonder if that might be a week off. In terms of they don't have that much like high end talent on this team. It's gonna be scheme, but they're familiar. They just saw this team. I don't think they were hiding anything. The Texans were trying to get into the playoffs, so that was like a real game in terms of like your book. I just think the Browns are just too good on defense, and I really love C.J. Stroud, but I do have a prop for this one if it helps. So I'm taking the Browns, but I
hit it.
I have Nico Collins. I know I'm talking about their defense, but I just think the concentration in Nico Collins. The line is pretty tempered at 71.5 yards on DraftKings. I think he's going to go over that just between his big play ability. The fact that he's probably going to be lined up with Derek Stingley, I think that's going to actually be a benefit because they're going to pepper him with targets against this rookie. And I mean,
Nico Collins doesn't play against Derek Stingley.
They're on the same team. I mean, what's his name? Come on, say it. Yeah, Emerson. Yeah. So or the other one, the good corner. Ward, Denzel Ward.
Denzel
yes.
Ward. Yeah.
So everything just changed in a second, which is how this works.
Under
Yeah.
on Nico Collins.
Under on Nico Collins. No, but seriously, I just think the concentration is going to go over. So,
right.
Yeah, there you go.
Right, because we don't have any Tank Dell. We're not sure as of our recording this whether Noah Brown plays.
Right.
And heaven knows in that my best bet last week was the Texans in Indianapolis, and heaven knows when the money met the road or whatever the money does with the road. To mix my metaphors, they sure did throw to Nico Collins a lot, right?
And Kenny Rhodes is really good for the Colts. So there you go. I know some names. There you go. Let's go.
I couldn't remember Nick Mullins. So hey, man, I'm not casting stones. So I think we're on opposite sides there. I'm going to take the points. Home points plus 2.5. I don't feel great about it. I like the over. It's 44.5. That's not even that outrageous of a total. It's one of the higher totals of the week, but definitely not the highest. So I like
Joe Foles playing. He's good, the best.
Like, if that happens, dude, if it's Joe Foles, I'm gonna lose my mind. I got enough of that. Like, yeah, it was against my team, but even if it wasn't, I'd be over it. All right, let's do two things. First of all, let's thank DraftKings for being a great sponsor. I mentioned it earlier. They have a great deal going on. If you've never tried DraftKings, but you're looking for a little juice, maybe you're like my team is not in it, maybe your team isn't in it, and you're looking for a reason to care. And I find that just having like $10 down on a game makes me care way more than you would think, just because I want to be right and it's fun. So if you download that DraftKings app, if you sign up using the code HarrisTube, all one word, then you can make one $5 wager, and for the playoffs, they're going to give you $200 in bonus bets instantly into your account. So like, do that, make a $5 bet, get $200 in bonus bets, and then play some props. And it gives you a little rooting interest. Pick a side, pick a total. It's pretty fun. And it does let DraftKings know that sponsoring us has worked, and we would really appreciate that. So again, if you download the DraftKings app and sign up using the code HarrisTube, you'll get $200 in bonus bets with one $5 bet. Thank you again to DraftKings. Now, the other thing, I'm going to smatter in some coach stuff as we go along. And the biggest news that we have as of recording this is that Pete Carroll is out in Seattle. They missed the playoffs. I think a lot of folks were pretty surprised by that. I think I wasn't one of them. I had the season total under. They wound up finishing 9-8. I don't believe in Geno Smith. I believe he exists. I don't think he's good at quarterback. Your reaction to Petey Sunshine taking a dirt nap as a coach?
Well, I saw his coaching span, and he was like an assistant for like the Baltimore Colts in '75. It was just like, whoa, this guy's been around.
Bud Grant.
Yeah. He's been around. I don't know. I'm gonna miss the gum chewing. I'm not gonna miss when he brings in like Jordan Peterson for like motivational talks. This is my take. It's just like okay. But I will say that he's leaving them in a pretty good place as far as like transitions go. I don't think it's like completely inept. They have a really good defense. It'd be fun to see them have somebody take over like Dan Quinn. I know people talk about offense or defense. Like, I don't know. I thought he'd be good with Devon Witherspoon. Maybe not. No? Is he bad?
Wouldn't Witherspoon be good without Dan Quinn? I mean, that's my feeling.
Yeah. I'm just going based off some tweet I read today. So,
me too. It sounds like it's in the bag. It almost sounds like.
Yeah,
but yeah, I'm
in
not
my
sure.
brain.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm just trying to sell it. The main thing is they don't have a quarterback. We talked about the Geno thing. Drew Lock knows all the Jeezy lyrics, but that's not going to help you when it comes to throwing touchdowns, except if it's the Eagles with 92 yards and 2 minutes left. But overall, I mean, I don't know what to say in terms of it just opens up another vacancy. I will say it's one of the better jobs. If I'm David Tepper, I'm like, damn, once again, I'm like, he's moving further and further below the totem pole. Because if you want to rank jobs, I would put that fairly high. Like, outside the neon uniform, it's like, I think Atlanta's roster is pretty fun too, but I think there's something there. The defense is pretty loaded, and they have 2 young tackles, but no quarterback. But that's true with a lot of these vacancies, isn't it? Isn't there a correlation between openings and not having a quarterback? So
right, yeah, I think probably the best job available, and maybe part of that is just they kind of know how to do things, and he's still going to be there, and like I think. They've been totally vindicated on Russell Wilson, and Pete Carroll understood what was lacking when he was the head coach of New England and made sure that Paul Allen, who was alive at the time and had a lot of money, didn't make those same mistakes that the Patriots continue to make with being cheap on everything and having facilities that stink and all. Just everything is first class in Seattle. So I agree. I think it's a good spot. And we will miss Pete Carroll, but not his injury reports.
No.
Whoosh. Not an honest guy. All right, let's go to Saturday night. Let me ask you. This is maybe my favorite matchup of the weekend, and it's going to take place in maybe the coldest situation in NFL history. They're saying, or in recent history anyway. The Dolphins, totally built for cold weather, are going to Kansas City, and we've pointed out Kansas City's flaws all season long. So any picking of Kansas City here, or kind of leaning in their direction or thinking that matchups work great, has to come with an asterisk, because there are a lot of things wrong with Kansas City.
There are. I was going to say, it's tough to trust either of these teams right now for different reasons. The Kansas City, just the whole year, their whole portfolio. I mean, I look as an Eagles fan, we beat stop it doing that. The Eagles, I will say. The Eagles beat the Chiefs, and it was like, all right, there's a win, that's a win, and now it depreciates. It's like in a college football team beat somebody early, and then, it looks like the strength of schedule, it's not nearly as impressive. That's the case with this Chiefs team. On the other side, you have this Dolphins team who just is eroding on defense. I mean, the number of injuries and impact positions has been really, and I think that influences why this line is this way. Obviously, if Vic Fangio had a full deck, this would be a 1.5 or 2 points or something. Like, it opened around there, right? It's been pushed. Miami's never won a game in franchise history below 67 degrees. No, I don't know. I made that up. But I think midway through the second quarter, they're all going to turn into like gelato, just like passion fruit mango Tua, like Vic Fangio will just be like cigar flavored. But I think the main thing here is that, like, the Eagles have this same, very different, but they have this problem where it's like, are you going to change? Is there a playoff mode? Is there a button you press? And I don't know if there is. I don't think there is. And I also think there is this finesse concept with the Dolphins when really they can run and they can kind of keep away. And I like the under in this, but just between the fact that I think they're going to play keep away and like subdue the game. But is it weird to say that I'm not afraid of the Chiefs, like, in their offense anymore? Like, not that it's weird. It's just that, like, the sample size isn't a couple weeks. It even dates back to last year. They turned it on in the playoffs. But so again, last year they were able to find it. But whatever the marginal differences are in what they did last year to this year, it's also the decline of Kelce. There's several factors. Blah, blah, blah. This was a tough pick for me. And I'm not going to share it yet, but this is tough because I'm going to steal from what you say. So.
If it wants to be my best bet, you have to change your bet. The Dolphins, I was ready to feel like the market was going to undervalue the Dolphins until I found out they were going to play the coldest game in NFL history. And I got to be honest, it sets up so well for Mahomes. You said it. They turned it on last year. They weren't this bad on offense during the regular season last year, but they did turn it on. They don't have Jerick McKinnon to turn it on. That might be actually a big part of what's different, not having Jerick McKinnon. I'm not going to say not having Juju is a big reason. But I'll say, what I will say is that just now Jerome Baker's out. Like, they're down 2 linebackers. They're already down there.
Hurt. Yeah, he's their best safety. Yeah.
Like, it sets up so well for Mahomes. I don't say that. I say that not disappointed that I think Kansas City will win, because I do think they will. I say it because I'm disappointed that Miami was such a fun story and a fun offense, and they just got bitten at the wrong time. And that's to say nothing of the fact that, yeah, sure, does Miami run well? Cool, when Raheem Mostert's healthy. Because and we're not sure if he's going to play. Like, against Buffalo last week, I love it. I love how on the first series, Devon Achane has a couple good runs, and whatever knuckleheads were doing that game were like, the next superstar in the NFL. And then in the second half, I was looking for a tiny uniform, a little tiny number 28. I couldn't find it. It seemed like when the going got tough, maybe you needed the bigger running back. And I don't trust, if it's only Devon Achane, I don't trust that he can run, because we haven't mentioned that the one thing that's worked with Kansas City has been the defense.
Right. Yeah, it's true. They do have a philosophy, like, Spags is going to send pressure and, like, unload. It is a shame, because I also think it's going to give license to, like, I don't know, like, not that I'm protecting Tua's reputation, but it's going to give license to this idea, this confirmation that, like, yeah, exactly, they're soft and all these things. Yeah. But it's like, but if you had a full-speed Waddle, a full-speed Hill, and Mostert, and all the things that make them who they are, the dynamism, the fact that they have this multiple option where you're stretching you thin, they're not going to have that. They're going to be a little bit more normal. They're going to have a normal hierarchy, right? So yeah, for that reason, I already went into this. I said it's not easy, but I am taking the Chiefs. I hate the line. I wish it was 3.5 or 3, but that's not the case. And obviously the factors are understandable. And Vic Fangio, he's a great schemer, but you can't do much with this defense when everybody's out. I mean, their backup defensive ends are getting hurt, so it's just like it's scary.
For me, a line of 4.5 just doesn't feel like it quite accounts for the injuries enough. You know, on defense. I mean, offense. We don't know how the offense's injuries are going to resolve because Mostert and Waddle have practiced and may actually wind up playing. We don't know the limit, but we know all those guys on defense aren't going to play, and it's
Holland
not great.
Played one snap last week, which is really bad. I mean, that was a game that they meant to play, and they're running Javon Holland out there, and you play one snap. That is such a red flag that like you got ready for the week, and so that's my fear. So tying into the Holland thing. Because he's a tight end racer, I have Kelce over 57.5 yards. I just think it's going to be check down city, and he's going to have to get funneled. So there you go.
It's such a low total for him. It's funny. The other I only picked two props for this. They both were for Saturday, so I'm looking forward to hearing your other props. I took Rashee Rice over 63.5, and whenever has Rashee Rice's yardage total been 6 higher than Travis Kelce's?
That's incredible.
Not this year.
But his target share, it's finally catching up, though. His target share, his production, everything. I mean, he was out last week, and it felt like he was the key missing piece. I mean, they were resting him, but I'm saying.
Right.
Yeah.
And there was no Mahomes either. But, I feel like you do. Let's face it, Rashee Rice kind of plays tight end. I mean, I was talking about on the main podcast this week, that his ADOT, his average depth of target this year was under 5.
That's what I say. Yeah, I was going to guess it was right around 5. Yeah. He just gets these little crossers. Yeah.
And on passes 6 yards or more, he had 0 touchdowns. He had I can't remember, 17 catches or something. Not used.
Those are saved for MVS. Let's be honest. Those are for.
It's a fair point. On to Sunday, shall we? Let's talk about the largest spread of the week. I guess it's the one that they're telling us is not even worth watching. By the way, I didn't even mention it. Saturday night on Peacock. How are you going to watch that one, Jim?
Streaming somehow.
Some kind of streaming. So we're not going to talk.
I probably have a life contract with Comcast somehow, so I hope I can get it. So yeah.
It's just great. Good job, NFL. Well done. You're gonna have 1/10 the audience probably.
Yeah,
somewhere between 10 and 20% the audience.
You would normally two classic marquee franchises. Let's just bury them and just promote a new CSI or whoever has that franchise. So let's go for it.
Fantastic. Yeah. All right, so we are on to Sunday. We are on to the Steelers. We're on to the Bills. There was a time at halftime last week where it felt like it was going to be Bills at Dolphins again, because if the Bills had lost in Miami last week, that would have been the matchup. Instead, the Steelers, who, I don't think they're good. But they figured out a way to get in, and that involved mostly playing against the Browns, who didn't play anybody, and still looked like the Steelers might lose. But no, they figured it out. They are going to Buffalo. There's not a cold weather thing like the way it would be for Miami, where we would have to worry about the team. Instead, we can just worry about, does TJ Watt play? He got hurt last week. I would tend to think not, but maybe you know something I don't. I haven't checked on that.
No, he's out. It's an MCL sprain. They've ruled him out already, so it's that's not good.
Oh, did they rule him out? Okay, good.
Or at least that's
good,
the consensus from the beat. They're all saying that.
Right. And then meanwhile, the Bills. I feel like all you can really say about we've said it all year. There are teams that their games are referendums about them, and the opponent kind of doesn't matter. And the Bills are certainly one of those teams. There have been, did Josh Allen play well in Miami last week? No. Stephon Diggs is jumping up and down telling no, he would have had an 80-yard touchdown or whatever it was. It was way overthrown. I don't know what's up. I don't know if he's hurt. I don't know if he's just not as good as we thought. But once again, this game is much more a referendum on the Bills.
It's just mid-90s Axl Rose. Is he going to pass out in his hotel room, or is he going to come out and blast out 3 albums? Yeah, seriously. I don't... it's hard for me. One, there is a wind factor. I don't know how much, but they say it's going to be crazy blustery there in Orchard Park, which is a really great name to pretend that you're not in Western New York, Orchard Park. But it's just a really big line. Mason Rudolph, what? He's the starter. We're not talking about that enough. The fact that Kenny Pickett's healthy and he's just not the guy.
Can I ask you a Mason Rudolph question?
Yeah.
Are his facial features too big for his face?
They are. It's like It's like if somebody took Daniel Jones, like MS painted it, like zoomed and
stretched it out a little
Control
bit,
plus, it's like, and you just and you don't know how to fix it. You're just like, everything's big. My font is 27. But the Bills are they're volatile. They're super volatile. I love what you said though, how they are really like opponent independent in the way that they play. They can come out and score 35 and hero ball, but it's almost the way that, like, look at last week, like EPA can be terrible, but I just thought it was funny how he had Josh Allen had like the second biggest deficit of EPA in a winning game, like of plays lost, but also the second biggest added. So he came out on top, but that's who he is. He's a strikeout in 3 pitches, or he's gonna put it out of the park. He's just such a volatile player. I just don't think this without Watt. We saw it earlier in the year. I was all over the Steelers against the Texans. Didn't believe the Texans. The Texans, was it 34-10, destroyed them. Now, the Texans look better in retrospect, but my point is, he is such a linchpin player. Not having Watt, actually, that's why this line's so big. He's the strange defensive player who can move a line. It's like if Myles Garrett was out. Like, Houston might be favorites. So, my one prop for this is Kenny Pickett over 1.5 gloves. He's going to have 2 gloves. But I actually do have a real prop for this game because I think stylistically, aligning with the favorite, I do like James Cook's over on carries. It's 15.5 on most books. I just like it. He's since Joe Brady took over, he's hit that in 5 of 7. The one he didn't was a blowout where they just didn't have to run anymore. Like, they just went to, I don't know, Leonard Fournette's ghost. So, like, there's an impression that they align. There's a correlation between big spreads and the lead running back, and I just think there's more balance. I also like Josh Allen's over in rushing, 38.5, because TJ Watt's not there to scare him. I think they cover. I just think the Steelers team is a fraud, like, of all the frauds. And I'm an Eagles fan, and I'm calling somebody a fraud.
There are going to be 3 games here that I nailed the line, but I made myself make picks on all of them. Mostly because I was, the best bets have worked out so well. I'm feeling full of myself. This would not be one of them, but I guessed exactly the line would be 10. As of our recording this, the line is exactly 10. And if I have to choose a side, I don't want to be on Mason Rudolph's giant face. So I'm going to be with you on the Bills minus 10. This could go so wrong. Because every game is a referendum. Like, it's easy to see a bunch of ways for this. I think we all think the Bills probably win, but like, it's easy to see how this gets close. I've seen the Giants play them close up there,
and
right?
Especially with the lead and like crazy gross, like George Pickens' 75-yard catch where he dances down 20, and then suddenly you're not covering.
Or just like Josh Allen has been slow to show up in games, right? Yep. He just has been, suddenly he throws 2 pick sixes. It's 17-0.
There you go.
And you're like, oh, cool. So tell me how I cover here. That would be great. I think you're going to win, but like, tell me how you win by 10. That does feel like it could happen, but yeah, I'm gonna be with you. Not that enthused about it. All right, the next. Oh, actually, before we get to the next game, I want to ask you another coaching question, and that question is about another surprise firing. Relatively speaking, there was more possibility that this might happen, but I want to get your impression of Mike Vrabel leaving Tennessee.
Yeah, kind of wanting to coach the Eagles. It's good timing for him with a good market. It is confusing, but I suppose it came down to, I don't know what we'll read more about it, but if it comes down to personnel control, did he want more control? I don't know. They're moving on. He's a good coach. I like him. Guys like playing for him. It seems like he's done a lot with a little like before, or not with little, but he also owns his style, right? You said it before, like Tennessee, you know what you're getting. They can also be a little bit matchup independent. Like when they come out and they're punching you in the face. A couple years ago, they made that kind of fraudulent run with Tannehill, right, into the NFC Championship game. But there's still a style that they have that just beats you in the face. And I think he's going to be attractive because of that, because there's a notable identity. And not to stick with the Eagles, keep going, but like Sirianni's kind of like this like just guy who will listen to like upper management and do and press the buttons. That's not Vrabel, so I don't think he's for every situation. But I would be curious to see like him in a Seattle or him in a team that already has the turnkey, or like New England, and like and I think people forget that with like Christian Gonzalez and Judon, like they were out the whole year. There is some stuff there, and then let's just see if Marvin Harrison can be a quarterback too,
So yeah, as of recording this, the Patriots haven't made a move with Belichick yet, and every day that goes by, the people that I know in that organization don't know what's going to happen. Like they're not decision makers at the high level, so they don't know. They have not been told. But like, this seems awfully coincidental. It seemed like as of a few weeks ago, the Titans ownership was like, of course Vrabel's back. And all of a sudden it's like, not only is he not back, he's fired. We're going to pay his salary not to be here. And to me, if you know Mike Vrabel, I don't know him personally, but you know that he is really smart, but also we would like him. Very sarcastic, very funny, very biting. And when he wants to talk his way out of a situation, he did it in New England, frankly, when he was he wasn't even a free agent. He just kind of complained about the way they spent money, which they've always been cheap in New England, and they traded him. It was towards the end of his career, but they got rid of him, and they could have probably used him. But
they went to Houston, was it?
Yeah, I would love for the Patriots to wind up with him, which is crazy because my whole thing with the Patriots has been like, enough with the defensive head coaches. Please, can we get an offensive head coach? You and I have said this so many times during this year. When you get the defensive head coach, you get the offensive coordinator, and if it works out, that coordinator's gone in 2 years anyway. You got to start all over again. It's exactly what happened to Vrabel in Tennessee with what's his name, who's now the head LaFleur in Green Bay.
Right. Yeah. No, it's true. That's actually a great point. I mean, not actually, but. We just saw it with Sage Steichen. He leaves, and then the identity's gone, and you're left to scramble. Right. There's only a few select coaches who survive those over and over. The McVays, the Shanahans, the poaching, So it's difficult.
Sure, but they're offensive guys, so they don't lose their play caller. They are the play caller.
That's what I mean. Like those are the guys who can afford attrition, whereas like the defensive guys, like, do you have anybody's cell phone number? Because that happened to Dan Quinn. He lost Shanahan.
But that said, Vrabel does seem to have that je ne sais quoi, the indefinable quality that you know it when you see it, which is to say, leader of men, can hit. Nothing's ever really too big for him. Like that's what you want. There aren't that many guys. There's so many teams that don't have that in the NFL, so he's going to make a good candidate somewhere.
He's like Dan Campbell without blood pressure medication. You know what I mean? Like so.
Well, that remains to be seen. We'll talk about that game in a second. All right, let's talk about the middle game on Sunday. It's the Packers. It's the Cowboys, and I keep saying, none of these teams have fired their coach so far, because after an entire season of Jerry Jones swearing up and down that this is great, this is all so great, there's no chance, I would never make a change, this is all going so well. Suddenly in the last week
to week,
all the Cowboys have done is float. Is this guy's week? Let's see. I'd say it's about 50-50. Like, I think that is the most predictable heel turn maybe in NFL history.
Yeah, it's this weird thing where the Eagles can actually win a game on Sunday without playing, because if the Cowboys lose, it would just be so much Schadenfreude. And actually, I would create so many burner accounts. But the thing is with the Packers is I actually think, here's one thing, and I'm not going to get too statty with it, but I did look through, and like the Cowboys have played 8 games. We're going to filter out any team that's outside the top 20 in offensive DVOA, right? So just
right.
And that does take away the Cardinals, but here's the point. They played 8 games against teams that we can consider top 20 offenses. That's not that big of a bar, right? And they've surrendered 26 points a game to those teams. So they get into these these up and down games, and Love is firing on all cylinders. I'm not trying to tip my pick here, but it's just that I'm not completely sure why it's over a touchdown here. I understand like the idea of playing in Texas is hard. Is it though? Is it? And just that like the Cowboys also, like, they live off pressure. Their secondary got beat up this year. They need to get to the quarterback to make it happen. They have all the things for that. But the one thing the Packers have is they have a really good offensive line. They have protected Love. And Love does move a little bit, and he can roll. So I kind of just like this setup. I mean, one of my props, not even to pick the game, one of my props is the passing number for this total. So the game total is 50.5 on DraftKings. And Love's passing number is 247.5. I just think that's too low. And I know
over.
I think he has patchwork receivers, but I mean, at some point, can somebody give Christian Watson a hamstring? And I just like the over on his yardage, and I just like that this is going to be an up and down game. I think this is going to be a back and forth game. I can't see this being a drubbing the way this line kind of suggests it should be.
So I tell you why I think the line is what it is. As of our recording, it's at 7.5 for the Cowboys. I think it's because nobody believes that what we saw from Green Bay's defense the past couple of weeks is going to hold up. That sure, Green Bay might put a pretty good number up there, but the Cowboys will be able to name theirs. They'll score 49 or whatever.
Right.
I don't have any way of really disagreeing with that, other than to say, have you ever really gone broke betting against the Cowboys rising to what they should do in a playoff game over the last 20 years. Great, prove me wrong, and I'll tip my cap. I'm fine with it, but it sounds like we're leaning in the same direction. Like, it should be a fun game, a high-scoring game. I'm into it. I get it that probably the weakest unit on the field is probably the Packer defense. That's fair. You'd probably agree with that, right?
Yeah, they've completely underperformed. Yeah, except they have a couple guys, but yeah, Kenny Clark's been good. That's it.
And they've played better lately. They needed it in Minnesota. They played better. They needed it against Chicago. They played better. So maybe that's great. I'm not even going to consider the turnaround real, but maybe it is. And then this looks all the better. But so sure, the Cowboys are going to score some points, but I couldn't agree with you more that I think people say, well, the Cowboys simply have one of the best defenses in the league. I think those are people who have Micah Parsons jerseys. Like, I don't really think it's true. I think they've got a lot of good personnel, but all I see is free receivers running for long touchdowns against them.
Yeah, it's true. I think you can beat up the secondary. Quinn's aggressive. So if Love has been just, I'm completely shocked basically by how good Love's been. Particularly the last, like, it's not a small sample size. It's not one of these like 2 or 3 week things like the defense. That's hard to really buy into. But it's easy for me to buy into this team. And he's done it with a rotating cast. So it's almost like the CJ Stroud thing where he's done so much with kind of like a rotating cast of characters that at some point you're just like, okay, it kind of is who he is, at least this season. I don't know if it's forever. I think this should be like it sounds like a big difference, but I think this should be like a 6-point line. And I
said it at 6.
And I just think that's the gap.
6.
So, yeah.
I said it at 6. It's 7.5. I am also with you. We're going to take the points, and we'll be on the Packers to maybe lose a close one, or maybe end the Micah McCarthy era in Dallas. It couldn't be clearer. I mean, it couldn't be clearer. That's what's been leaked to the media moles. The skin puppets in the NFL media have been told, and they're not putting the exact dot on it, but if they lose this game, McCarthy's gone. And Belichick is probably the coach of the damn Cowboys.
Oh my God, that would be incredible. I would love that. You know how they do jersey swaps? Like, they should make like LaFleur wears like tight, like he wears like Viore. He probably wears like really nice joggers. They should make Mike McCarthy have to wear his outfit afterwards, and then LaFleur just gets like a big baggy like starter jacket or whatever McCarthy wears. So yeah,
the walk of shame. Let me ask you about another coaching situation. Arthur Smith, who we've had great fun with here on the show. We had great fun with on the main podcast, and Dave Piper has certainly had a lot of fun with on Silliest Thing videos, which are great. He's gone, and he went out guns a-blazing, yelling at Dennis Allen, who probably also should be gone. I'm not going to have a lot, but I love that the instigator of all of it is Jameis freaking Winston. Like, of course it is. Of course it's Jameis Winston, right? Like, he's the dumbest man in the world, but he's like a sweet, happy, funny goldfish. He's nice, whatever. I don't know if he's sweet. Crab legs would tell me otherwise. So Atlanta. What I want to ask about because I'll tell you what Arthur Smith's going to be, the offensive coordinator for Mike Vrabel in New England, probably, but whatever. Is Atlanta a good job? Is Atlanta a good job from an Arthur Blank perspective? I mean, he's rich, it's fine, whatever. I mean, like the current roster.
Not really. I mean, the defense needs an incredible amount of work, in my opinion. Like, I think they're the team that always signs like the defensive end like 4 years after everybody else gave up on him. They're like you know what I mean? Like, they're like, this guy had 10 sacks in 2017. Like, that's how they sign their line. So I would say that it needs a lot of work, but I think that the idea would be that it has a good offensive line and has all these skill players on young, controllable contracts. At least for now, that can change because time and you got to pay them eventually. But still, none of them are past their third year so far. So there is some interest in it. I just think it's the quarterback again. You got to have a quarterback, and it's one of these things where the NFC South in general is just incredible. But it's not as attractive to me, one, because I think the owner is kind of not a great guy, and I'd rather be in a situation that is first class like Seattle. I'd rather be, there's just the Chargers. At least I have a quarterback, So there are better situations out there, obviously. So I think Atlanta, the appeal would be the division is soft, and that you have this like ready-made skills group where if you added a couple pieces, you could probably have a pretty dynamite top 5 offense pretty quickly. They almost did with Smith, right? There was times that they were really humming. I don't love the defense, so I think it needs more work than you think. I think it needs more work. I'd rather have the Bears. I'd rather have all these other situations that are like asset rich. Not that they have Eberflus, our favorite Pearl Jam coach. He's still there. So yeah,
he is. I tell you, the New England people are all saying Belichick might not go to Atlanta, but it won't be for lack of trying because Atlanta really wants him. That's what I've been told. So we'll see. I guess if you want someone to rebuild a defense, I don't want him to pick a quarterback though. I'm pretty sure about that.
No.
Yeah. So we'll see. All right. So the last game on Sunday, the Rams. I don't know if the Rams and the Lions traded quarterbacks a couple years ago. It hasn't really gotten a lot of press.
Yeah.
Did you hear about that?
Yeah, 88% of Lions fans only have Matt Stafford jerseys, so we'll see what happens here. There's a lot going on
the Rams, there's a lot going on here. The Rams have played very, very well and worked themselves into looking like a danger team in the playoffs for sure. The Lions might be without Sam Laporta, who's been really important to them. They really haven't been able to find a second receiver, and they have Jared Goff, and Matt Stafford's probably better. So how do you begin to unpack this potentially the juiciest of all the matchups of the weekend?
I did like an anagram of golf and dome, and it's just like I'm doing these word scrambles of him in a dome. I also saw this one time I don't know how I ended up watching this, but it was like one of those terrible YouTube documentaries that teams do, like Lion Pride or something. And Jared Goff was trying to make a clothing line, and I just was thinking about like who would be inspired to give their credit card to anybody, or just any. I wouldn't use your credit card to like get Jared Goff, like Jared Goff, and like I just wondered what's the logo for Jared Goff? Like, is it just like instead of like Michael Jordan, is it just like a quarterback falling over? I just love the idea that he wanted a clothing line, but I really love what the Rams are doing, and I don't think it's fake. I don't think it's that patchwork, and it's the best matchup possible for them because they're really mirror images, right? Like the better quarterback, but like they rely heavily on their top few talents. Like they funnel their offense to three guys. The biggest thing is that like the secondary. I just trust the coaching. I trust Raheem Morris way more than I trust Aaron Glenn, who like got an extension for being a buddy, but like they're just still bad on defense. I still like. You talked about the independent part of the Bills. The Lions are the same way in the way that like when they're bad, it could be against anybody, and they could lose. Like they could lose to the Panthers, not really, but like they could lose to Derek Carr. Like they could lose to anybody. And I think they did. They could lose to anybody when they need to. And I guess the point is that I just don't trust that they're ready for this moment. I think the coaching, the quarterback factors, all these check marks, it's not enough points. I wish it was 3.5. But I like the Rams. I think there's too many factors here in their favor. Like I don't think they're afraid to go in there and just play their game. It's going to be high scoring too. So that favors
tease
to
it
me.
down. Tease it down, man. DraftKings can do that. Tease it down.
Yeah.
If you don't like three, tease it up. I guess.
Yeah, and that's not going to cost you that much. That half point.
So I guess this we're at Lions -3 right now. I guessed -3, so I'm not gonna. Nothing I'm about to tell you is going to mean that I'm very sure about it. But here's where my head's at. What am I most worried about with Jared Goff? Pressure, obviously. Pressure. Like you get pressure on Jared Goff, it's over. The first time they play a good team gets pressure on them, they're going to lose in these playoffs. The Rams don't really get pressure.
Outside of Donald, no, they don't.
I mean, Aaron Donald's really good, but like the Lions' offensive line's good and knows how to, like, don't let that guy be.
They can afford to double. I get it. They can still have the numbers advantage. Right.
So that takes a big worry away from me. And to be honest, isn't this exactly what we used to say about Matt Stafford when he was in Detroit? Like, let Matt Stafford pat the ball and you're dead.
Yeah.
If he is an open guy, Calvin Johnson's going to kill you, right? But the second you get pressure on him, he loses his head, he does stupid stuff. And what does Detroit do?
Yeah.
They get pressure.
And they get honest pressure. So I hate that. I don't like this. You're making sense.
Well, no, but I understand from your perspective. Like again, I said this line was -3.
Yeah.
I think the Lions should be favored by 3. I'm right on this line, but I'm gonna pick the Lions. But I don't feel super great about it because I see your point. I see why the styles making fights kind of work for the Rams' advantage. Like one of them is smarter and tougher and has a better quarterback. Like I think Stafford is better than Goff.
That's what I mean. I think this comes down to like late game adjustments and late moves, and I just think like.
You trust the coach.
Yeah, the dude who doesn't have 12 pounds of dip in his lip is going to be better. So
we're on opposite sides there. It doesn't sound, though, like you're super passionate that you're like, Rams aren't going to be your best bet.
No. The only thing I like is Puka over 77.5 yards. Just they're going to funnel. So it's lower. Okay. It's lower than it's been in the high 80s for most regular season games. I understand. I just don't know who they're going to put on them. I mean, I just don't know what are the Lions going to do here. So.
All right. Well, so Dave Piper, the producer, will have figured out a way to put all the props somewhere, and either inside the video or down in the comments, you'll find everything that Jim has been mentioning. My last coaching question for you is, I mean, the Chargers have been. We've talked about the Chargers having fired their coach, so it's not new. I don't need to talk about the Chargers. We've talked about Carolina. They've had, they're a mess. We don't talk about them. The other new one since we've talked is the Commanders. And not a shock, but officially now Ron Rivera's gone. And we don't need to go on for too long about it because I think I know your answer. But is that a good situation? Putting aside the owner and all that stuff, just roster.
Yeah, well, I think I actually kind of I don't hate it because of the pick equity that you have this opportunity to develop around a quarterback that gives, like, in a coaching sense, it gives you that runway to set the versus where,
because they're picking two. But they're picking two. Right?
They're two for sure. So they're going to have May, or who never knows what happens, with Williams, or maybe the cost isn't that prohibitive to go to one, and then the Bears, whatever. The point is that there's value there, whereas that's not in the game plan for the Falcons or the Seahawks, to identify that. So that's valuable to me. I do think there's something there. I hate to say it, Josh Harris. I know a little bit about him. He's the owner of the Sixers, but he does throw a ton of stuff at. In terms of the first class part of things, I think it will change. Like the facilities. I mean, you saw the size of the TV screen in there that the Niners were watching. Like, that's all going to change. That's going to be like an immersive plasma by next season. Yeah. So I mean.
Can I just say, did they hire a basketball guy to run it, though?
They did. Bob Myers is from the Warriors. He's, like, handling the search, because it's pretty inept. Yeah, it's pretty inept. It doesn't look good for Eric Bieniemy, by the way. That whole whole like incumbent take it over thing, that didn't really happen. No. Especially when players talk about him, they're like, oh yeah, he's cool. He likes breakfast sandwiches. It's just like, what? Like, it's just like, that's just a fact about his daily routine. Like, it's like they're just like avoiding the fact that he's just not the guy. But I do think there's something attractive to it. It's a big market, and it does a big fan base, rather. It has a regional fan base, like down to the south, and it kind of matters. That does matter, because you're gonna have. It can turn pretty quickly if you get the right guy. So I think the opportunity to get May or whoever that is at 2, it does change the calculus for me.
All right. So we're going to move on to... Well, I think we're done. Actually, we're done. So thanks for watching this video.
Sweet.
We're going to talk about the Monday night game. Jim, I feel like we probably buried the lead here. We probably should have started a support group right off the top of the show, because the Eagles... I mean... we both had the Giants to cover against the Eagles, who kind of needed the game, or at least, there was a chance they needed the game. I don't think either one of us could imagine it was going to go that bad. That A.J. Brown was going to hurt his knee. That Jalen Hurts' finger would become a tribute to Jenga. That the defense would make the Giants' offense look that good. Like, that good? Really, that good? That good? This team is, I don't know. I mean, it's not... Yeah. I assume you're going to say it's not a very good team.
I started working on like a continuing education thing for teaching. I started learning about like geometry, teaching geometry to 3rd and 4th graders. So I just was like, you know what? I'm going to learn something. I'm going to get something out of this, And then I just kept looking up in the pain. Yeah, I mean, they should. DraftKings, this is to you guys. You should make some specials for us Eagles fans, like 1.5 times. Over 1.5 times that we send out like self-care or not like self-harm, but more just like self-loathing tweets. 2.5 times I'm gonna change a channel and watch like Hell's Kitchen or something. I'm just gonna see if Becky can saute a steak, and it's just depressing. I don't know what to say. The fact that the biggest swell in Philly right now, the number one theme is, how are we favorites? How are the Eagles favored on the road? It's
kind of a good question, right?
Yeah, particularly the idea that they can't. And so, is it a Jalen Hurts thing, or is it a coaching thing? They have no hot read, and they have no idea how to counter more than one extra rusher. So there's this thing in football where there's 4 guys who rush, and if a 5th guy rushes, the Eagles fall apart. It's like an object permanence thing. It doesn't.
The good thing is though, Jim, the Bucs they never blitz.
No, exactly, and they're not gonna go all out, and they don't have a history a couple years ago of absolutely dismantling Jalen Hurts in a playoff game either. Like, that didn't happen. Yeah. So yeah, the regression all hits at the same time. Baker Mayfield has a 5% turnover rate from a clean pocket. He's terrible too. It's really terrible. This is going to be terrible. I don't know if you remember a couple years ago, Carson Wentz on his demise played in Cleveland against Baker Mayfield, and it was just like a broken Rock'em Sock'em Robots. It was like you couldn't make contact. It was just that's an old reference, but like the point is, it was bad. It was like playing cards with like 14 cards. It's just it didn't work. I'm gonna post at least 3 Nick Foles pictures during this game, at least.
All right, follow him at underscore Jimmy McCormick because he's the underscore Baron.
Taking the Eagles by the way.
Yeah, how are you really?
Yeah.
Okay, listen. I mean, I guessed this line, and when I guessed it, I figured I'd be on the Eagles because I didn't think they'd be favored.
Right.
I guessed it at -3, like it's Eagles -3 on the road. The thing is, you say Baker. I mean, I agree. Baker Mayfield's not good.
He's been fine.
And he's been not. He's just a certain kind of fine. There's things that stats can't. People are telling me he's like number 6 in EPA.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like, I don't believe any of that. I watch all these games. There are times where he looks fine, but it's when everything's okay, you know. And as soon as things turn wrong, he starts running around, and he's going to make a mistake, like you said. The turnover rate's going to be high. Like, this absolutely doesn't. Like we said last week, as much hell as we're giving the Eagle offense, this really isn't about the Eagle offense. Like, they're fine. They're good enough. They're certainly good enough to beat Tampa.
Yeah, they've scored a lot at home. Outside of last week, like people are talking about that, but they've averaged like 28 points at home this year. It's not. That's not you're right. That's not the diagnosis. Right.
And they're not home here, but I take your point.
I just mean like they've been able to score. Yeah.
That's right. The problem is the defense. And okay, so again, I don't feel strongly about it because it's of one of the 3 games that I nailed the line exactly. I don't think there's value in this line, but I think I'm going to take Tampa because
I don't hate it. Yeah.
The defense is just what the heck, man. I think Tampa's Mike Evans is really good. I don't think they have an answer.
No, they don't. No, I mean, Darius Slay is tweeting again, and it's just like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? Stop doing this. He tweeted 0-0, like, you know, and it's like all this possum stuff. Like Chad Johnson had a thing about how they're playing possum. Brandon Graham had a whole thing where he's like, we're just gonna turn it on. I was like, this isn't an old Dodge. You're not just gonna warm it up. Like, this isn't like Grandpa's gonna come over with some good like motor oil. Like, this is broken. Yeah. Why do I keep saying these things? But I just think that this is the one opponent of the whole field, including AFC, like the whole field. If you jumbled it up, then I'd be like, okay, I can see it because it's also
Steelers.
About
Steelers.
Oh, the Steelers too. No, Steelers too. Steelers too. Yeah. So those are the 2 teams I would have beat. Tampa. Sorry, Tampa Bay. I just think that we win, and I don't think it's gonna be pretty. So yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna be. I would say stay away.
Yeah,
I would say mostly stay away.
I might move. So
you might like literally move away. Do you have a prop on this one?
Yeah, just like over 1.5 times I hate myself. So yeah. No. Actually, not a real. I liked Jalen Hurts' rushing prop. I think the last time I had it was 44. Let me pull it up. While you do vamp, I will pull it up. I have DraftKings open.
I'm vamping.
Yeah, here it is. Got it. Boom, rushing. Boom, rushing. I had it before. I like the over. They pulled it, so that doesn't help. Because I'm gonna guess because of all the injuries with the Eagles. But like last time I saw it was like low 40s or mid 40s.
Okay.
I'd go over. I think like. I'd even take like if you're doing a single game parlay, I even like over 50. They're gonna have to run Jalen because of the function of that's how they're gonna have to scheme like short plays because apparently it's that or a bubble screen. So give me the run.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I mean, dude.
Sirianni might be out too, by the way. Just like he has until midnight. It's like a gremlin thing. Like don't feed him after midnight. He has till midnight to win a game, and if he doesn't, bang, we're on the phone.
Do you really? If they lose this game, you think he's gone?
I do. Yeah.
Wow.
Because of how one, if you saw how Jeffrey Lurie walked down the hallway last week, it was just like I'm gonna fire you walk, and it's just like it's the type of collapse that it was. And also here's the thing, he's an offensive background, right? And so where's he put? And it's really bad was the chain of events that seriously the Patricia thing. It's not just that it was Patricia, but it's that you made Desai the scapegoat and it backfired really bad. And so that's the difference between. So we just talked about offensive coaches. He doesn't have that sustainability. He doesn't have that. They're 23-11 with Shane Steichen, and they're 13-11 without him. Like there's a huge gap between. So
although I don't know. I mean, it could be a Jalen Hurts thing. The thing is also, It's everything, and like you said, and it's probably the league figuring out Jalen Hurts a little more, figuring out what kind of pressure.
Some of it is it is schematic though, because if you notice, you talked about depth of target, he's got one of the highest ADOTs in the league, or average air yards per target, and that's just not who he is. It's all these difficult throws. They just don't scheme things. They need to make things a little easier. They have the people. Also, it doesn't help that A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith are completely injured, but let's not talk about that.
Yeah. I mean, Dallas Goedert had a mystery year. I mean, he's hurt for some of it, but
yes,
he's the perfect solution against zone with deep safeties, just middle of the field. They don't pop.
Again, his ADOT. They make him sit near the line of scrimmage. There's no. Yeah. It's strange. It's just a strange concoction of decisions, and I'm just not. Sirianni's one of these jack of all trades managers guys. You're just why does Greg keep getting promoted? And then you find out that Greg just is nice to people, or something, or he,
cries during the national anthem.
There you go.
All right. We're going to do our best bet, our favorite bet of the week. I'm going to say you got to pick a side for your best bet, not a prop.
Okay. My best side would be Green Bay. I like Green Bay the most to cover. I do. That's my
Me
favorite.
too.
Yeah.
Sorry for the people listening on the podcast. You don't know why I was smiling because Jim nailed what I picked as well. Green Bay plus 7.5. That's
that, and
also
the prop
mine.
would be Love's passing. So yeah.
All right. Well, we've done it. What do you think? For those of you watching on YouTube, we'd love for you to leave us a comment in general, because Dave Piper will reply to all of them and say how great you are for being here. So leave a comment. It makes us feel good that you're still watching the show. Thank you for that. And then also in the comment, if you'd like to, pick your favorite side and let us know, and we'll shout out somebody off the top of next week's show. We're not doing one tomorrow. This is it for the week. And so I think we made it all the way through. I didn't miss any massive NFL news, right? That
Nick Saban's going to take over the Panthers. That's why he's leaving Alabama. So because he loves Bryce Young, and so he's going to take care of his little bird. So yeah.
And then Urban Meyer go to Alabama. Sure.
And then then Dabo Sweeney goes to Roadhouse 2. Is the new movie. So, yeah.
All right. So that's going to do it. We want to thank DraftKings again for sponsoring. If you'd like to download that app, and if you've never used it before, use that code HarrisTube. It does help us out just a little bit. I want to thank Dave Piper for once again being a great producer and making a great show for us. Thanks to Jim so much. Thanks to you for watching and listening. My name's Chris. Thanks. I hope you enjoy the wild card weekend, and we'll talk to you next week for the divisional round. Thanks so much for watching. Please, please, please smash that like button, write a comment, tell us who else you'd like to see us review film on, and of course, best of all, please subscribe to our channel and then click that little bell above the subscribe button, and you'll be notified whenever we post a new video.